Welcome everyone. In this video, I'm going to be going over the Tower of Toxicity, Expertise, and Marks of Supremacy. Let's get into it. This game mode is completed by 3 players on a weekly basis. With these bosses came the new Expertise stats. You'll notice each of these bosses has a recommended knockdown. That's the amount of knockdown that your party should be bringing. You can get knockdown from investing in your hero's Expertise page, or by certain special gears. Let's take a look at my brewery to show you an example Expertise page. So by default, the first page will be used on everything unless you manually change it to using the second page. This is why I recommend to have everyone built on the first page and then have your PvP loadout built on the second page. For general PvE and the Tower of Toxicity, you'll generally want to have 1000 Spatak and 500 knockdown on each hero. Spatak will increase your own damage while decreasing the res of an enemy. In the Tower of Toxicity specifically, knockdown will increase the damage that you do to the knockdown bar. In PvP, your knockdown will eat through an enemy's G power point for point. Res is a much less common stat, but you can use it in PvP on your tanks. If you invest 500 res into your tank, that's a 5% damage reduction unless the enemy has Spatak to eat through your res. And G power works the same way in tandem with knockdown. So at 1000 G power, you have 10% extra status ailment resist, and this is huge in PvP. Now an enemy's knockdown is going to eat through your own G power. So you'll see on my second page, this is his PvP page. He's got 1000 in G power and 500 in knockdown. Now this knockdown is so he can eat through enemies' G power. And the G power is so he has an advantage over people who don't have knockdown investment. Now keep in mind, you will get a lot of knockdown from your emblem. I would say this is a standard defensive build. If you would like to build more aggressively, you can invest 1000 into knockdown and 500 into G power. And what that'll do is guarantee that you always eat through all 1000 of the enemy's G power and then still have a little bit of G power left on your own to increase your own SAR. So I'll show you my arena loadout, and you can see I have the mark page on the second page for the PvP loadout. And we can go in here and see their appropriate knockdown and G power investment. Now if I switch that back to the first page, you'll see this is his PvE build with Spatak and knockdown. Always be sure you're on the right Expertise page. I built Moonsword a little bit of a hybrid. In her case, I decided to reduce the investment in knockdown and G power a little bit to make sure that she's not getting her damage lowered by enemy res. I would not advise that you deviate too far from the standard 1500 point investment. Alright, so we've gone over what Expertise is and what those stats are doing for you. Now let's talk about how to get the Marks of Supremacy in order to invest in those stats. Back to the Tower of Toxicity. If you're a newer account and haven't gotten started in this at all, it's a good thing to get the gears turning to get this going. These Expertise stats are going to help you a lot behind the scenes and give you a fighting chance to the standard that everyone else is already at. The best way to get your feet wet is to probably get carried through Tot 9. Tot 9 is a good entry-level fight, and I would say most people are able to carry somebody through this now. There are currently 37 heroes ranked for usage in this. Now that comes with a caveat. So the rankings for the Tower of Toxicity battles usually will not update very much when new heroes get introduced because people already have their teams established, and so they really don't need to change it up that much. I've added Vindicator Hell and Haunted Fairy Leaflet, who aren't technically ranked. Vindicator Hell may be at 1.5% usage, and Haunted Fairy Leaflet is not on ranked at all, but they are insanely good for this fight. When you're gearing up your first TOT presets, be sure you're reading the tips and figure out what you have that can actually come to the battle. Let's move on to Tot 14, Envy. This is a much trickier fight with more limited usage. There's only 30 on ranked for this fight, but still, Tot rankings don't get updated with new heroes very often. And just a note for Envy, she's not weak to dark like you would think. She's weak to fire and water. Now you're probably wondering, but you can't use humans on Tot 14. Why do you bring Seamelf? Well, because she's great. I wish I had some footage to show you, but in TOT battles, you only have a small window to actually deal damage to the boss's health bar after the knockdown bar has been depleted. So it can be alright if a race gets CC'd, as long as they're up during that down to use their AS and get all their damage off in that small window, then you're good. Seamelv is a CC'd race in this, but she is my MVP for damage because of that. I just added a few final things I wanted to say about the subject. The normal 1500 investment costs 3200 Marks of Supremacy for one page. Now you see my 87,000 here. I'm not really worried about it. This is accumulation of months of farming TOT 14 and 16. So trust me when I say you'll get there, but not that quick. When you're first starting off, it's better to establish your main arena team and work on them a little bit at a time. Alright, so I just went to my Kitora's second page to show you real quick. As you can see, when you first start off, every expertise stat costs 1 moss. At 300, it costs 2 points per stat. Around 550, it starts costing 3. At 900, it's costing you 5 marks of supremacy per point, which is why if you have no moss investment in anyone, get your main arena team up to 300, 500 before pushing people over 700 of a stat, because it'll start to cost you. Getting your main arena team at 500 knockdown, 500 G power is much stronger than pushing one guy up to 1,000 knockdown. And then we can see to get to 1,000 of a stat, it actually costs 2,500 marks of supremacy. I have seen some other opinions on how expertise actually works, but in general, I would say this game's mechanics are not that complicated. The blue stats work in tandem, as do the red stats. I'll make these guides into a playlist, that way when I'm done, they'll all be in one spot. Until next time, I hope you all have a great time playing Valkyrie, and I'll see you later. Foots out. Cheers.